Hello everyone, welcome back to AB-Aquariums. I wanted to do another video just to talk about red cherry shrimp. I know I've done one a little while back, but I wanted to go into a bit more detail about how you can have success with them, what sort of setup you'll need, what sort of tank setup you'll need, size, you know, how to keep them going long term, get them breeding. You'll soon end up with hundreds of them, you know, it doesn't take long, and I think you'll have good success with them if you follow some of these tips. Let's have a little look at them, shall we? So I'll just quickly show you my 20 litre tank, or 5 US gallons. It's a fairly recent setup, and I have cheated a little bit in the fact that I've used hardscape and filtration from other tanks that I've already got set up. So it's kind of like a instant cycle, instant established tank, obviously apart from the glass getting covered in algae. But I did even use sand that I had stored that was in another aquarium which was slightly covered in water. So even then, you've got plenty of good bacteria and biofilm over everything that the shrimp are going to love. So yeah, if you can get some hardscape or some filtration from a friend or your local fish shop, it'll pay dividends, and they'll do really well in that. They'll soon thrive. And you know, if you can go to your local fish shop and get some plants on wood, or Anubias and Java fern growing on wood or rocks, get some of that. That'll be covered in biofilm and microfauna that they'll love. Everything in here is slowly breaking down, like wood wires and plants, even the dead and dying leaves that don't get the light, they'll soon die back, and the shrimp will find that as food. But yeah, this is just a little image into what I've got here, just to show you what sort of success you can have with a smaller tank. Like I say, this is only 20 litres, 5 US gallons, something like that. You can definitely do a smaller tank. You could even do some really small nano fish in here that would work. Yes, they might pick at some of the tiny little babies, but if you put some moss in a tank like this, the little babies have somewhere to hide away from any fish, and you'll soon have hundreds, and you won't know what to do with them. So yeah, I wish you the best of luck and all the success in keeping your cherry shrimp alive, and we'll go to me and have a little chat, shall we? So here we've got the red cherry shrimp. I've got absolutely hundreds in this tank. This is about 30 US gallons or 120 odd litres or something around there. And yeah, as you can see, they're everywhere. They're doing really well. This is a well-established aquarium. There's a little bit floating around the water right now, so I apologise for that. I've not long fed the tank. But yeah, these are my red cherry shrimp. There's all sorts of grades in here. You've got some slightly, you know, lighter ones, some slightly darker ones. Some of them are really quite a blood red sort of colour, and they seem to darken up quite well on the dark substrate as well. But as you can see, I've got all sorts in here. I've got some endlers in here. I've got some corridoras, all sorts of corridoras. I've even got some bristlenose plecos in here. So they can live with fish. You know, you don't need to keep them just on their own or just with snails. They can live with fish. You may lose the odd baby. And I did have quite a lot of shrimp in here before there were some fish added to the tank, and I do feed the tank very well, so they're probably not going after the shrimp as food. They're probably used to them being around and just part of the furniture, as so to speak. But yeah, I imagine some of the little babies are getting picked off, and that's fair enough. I can understand that. You know, I've got that many in here now, and an awful lot of moss, that it's kind of part and parcel of just how it is. It's a little ecosystem. You know, the little babies are food. They would be eaten in the wild, and that's just how it is. But I've got an awful lot of moss in here, and you know, the shrimp seem to love the moss. There's a lot of places to hide, and it gives a refuge for the little babies to get away and hide in. You know, that it's just a perfect plant if you want to keep your little shrimp going and get them breeding. It's a great place for microfauna to, you know, accumulate. You know, places where basically small organisms that will just accumulate on the wood and all the moss, and places where obviously we can't see with the naked eye, but shrimp love it. You know, a lot of people call it biofilm, which it is, but there's also a lot of microorganisms and microfauna in there that the shrimp love, and they're going to do really well in a well-established aquarium. So my point is, make sure you've got a well-established aquarium first before you keep cherry shrimp seriously. Well, before you keep cherry shrimp at all, to be fair. You know, maybe you've already got fish, maybe you've already got an aquarium. I wouldn't be too worried about keeping the tank looking pristine. I would actually let the tank go a little bit wild, let it get a little bit dirty. I don't mean letting loads of fish poo accumulate on the bottom, and you know, some people do keep tanks like that, which is, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people call it mulm, but I would definitely try and keep some, you know, let the tank go a little bit algified, if that's even a word. Let some algae grow on the glass at the back and the sides. Let there be a little bit of, you know, there's a lot of particulate matter in the water here. I've only got sponge filtration, which I do need to, they're due a clean, so that's probably a lot of the reason why not all the particulates getting sucked out the water, which is fair enough. But I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, I'm trying to breed bristlenose plecos in here, which they are, I believe they are starting to go now, but I've just been trying to get the right level of males and females together. But yeah, they'll start going, but I'm not too worried about keeping it looking pristine. This isn't a show tank by any means, and it's more just to get my cherry shrimp breeding, which they certainly done that in abundance, and get the bristlenose plecos breeding. I've even got some stir-by corridoras in here breeding as well, so I've got all sorts going on in here. And you can have all sorts going on in one aquarium with cherry shrimp. You haven't just got to have them on their own with snails. Yes, you can do that, and you will have more babies for it. And you know, if you feed the tank rather well, they will do well. But even in a well-established aquarium with quite a few fish, that you would probably assume that would get, you know, that be eating the cherry shrimp, which some of them are. They're going to get picked off. That's just how it is. But a lot are making it, and a hell of a lot more are. You know, this is just what's on show. I mean, I've not long fed the tank, and this is all the shrimp that are on show. So there's hundreds on show right now, and I can guarantee you there'll be a hell of a lot more hiding in the moss behind the wood. Like I say, this isn't a show tank. There's lots of caves for plecos and bits of wood and things like that. I do feed the tank quite heavy, like I say, but I do need to clean the sponge filters out as well. But yeah, as you can see, this is a well-established aquarium. This tank's been running for a couple of years at least. By no means, you know, have a tank running for a couple of years before you get cherry shrimp, but at least a good few months, you know, 3, 4, 5 months. Just let the tank, you know, plants-wise, let the plants grow in, let everything start to get well established, let the algae grow everywhere, all that good biofilm, the shrimp are going to love it. And when you eventually go and buy a few shrimp, a lot of people might say this is a bit controversial, but I would drip acclimate them. There's no harm in drip acclimating them to your water parameters, because even from your local fish shop, your water may be slightly different. You might have a slightly lower pH from the wood that's leaching into the water. You might, you know, that might bring the pH down a little bit. You might have a bit more hardness in the water, a bit less. So, you know, maybe it's slightly different to what the water is in the local fish shop, and it won't hurt to slowly drip acclimate the bag, or, you know, you can slowly scoop your tank water into the fish bag while you're floating it. So not only are they getting adjusted to the temperature of the tank, but they're getting adjusted to the water parameters at the same time. So you can like get a small, like I sometimes use like a small little bit of Tupperware and just pour water into the bag while it's floating into the tank. So they're slowly acclimatizing both parameter wise and temperature wise to your water. So you can do that, or you can put them in a little tub and use like an air line, like basically what that blue line is there. Use that, tie a little knot in it, get a siphon going, and have it dripping in. Like, I would say quite a fast drip. You know, not quite a steady stream, but a fast drip running into the Tupperware or whatever the shrimp are in that you picked up from the local fish shop. I would have them slowly acclimatise until the water's doubled or tripled in volume that they're sitting in, and then they'll be ready to go in your tank. Make sure, if you have got any fish in there, feed them first. Make sure they've got nice fat bellies before you add the shrimp, because they'll see, if they see 6, 10, 12 shrimp flying in there, they'll see that as dinner. They'll be like, oh, thanks for feeding us. You're dropping the shrimp in right where we normally feed, so happy days. We'll have a go at that. And they might pick at the shrimp, you know, that you buy, you know, you don't want them to get taken out or chunks taken out of them. But yeah, I would definitely try, feed the fish that you do have in there. If you've got no fish in there, even better. But if you do have fish, feed them first. And then when you add the shrimp, they're not going to be seen as food. Well, hopefully not, and you probably have a lot more success in that sense. If you've just got to do a shrimp only tank, maybe you've already got snails in there. I know it takes a lot of patience to do, but you'll soon learn patience in spades in this hobby, because you just can't not. It's just part of it. It's a long game keeping aquariums, and the more established and seasoned they become, I'd say more natural they look. You know, it's just how part and parcel of how it is. But hopefully you've had your tank running for a few months with just snails in there, if you're going to do a shrimp only tank. And you know, it's starting to get a good algae in there. The snails can't quite take care of all the algae. That'll be a good time to add the shrimp in. Like I say, drip acclimate them, get them adjusted to the water, and they'll soon settle in. You know, they'll soon settle in, and before you know it, you'll see the females carrying eggs underneath them, and they'll soon drop the babies, and you'll soon have more than you can count in no time at all. Especially if you've got some moss in there. I definitely recommend things like Java moss and things like that, just to give some refuge to the shrimp. If you've got fish and other predators in the tank that might go after the babies, definitely recommend the moss. You'll soon have loads in there, and like I say, in this tank that's been going a couple of years, yeah, there's a lot in here, but I've moved a few out of here into other tanks. You know, a few have been moved to other tanks, like I say. So there were more than this in here. So yeah, they can get out of control. Maybe move some onto a friend. Maybe make another decision what you're going to do with these shrimp. But yeah, make sure you've got a plan for them if you are going to breed them. I also forgot to add that food-wise, you don't need anything particularly shrimp-specific, if you know what I mean. You can add any fish food to the tank. Obviously, don't overfeed and add absolutely loads before the fish even get a chance to finish it off. But just normal fish food. I feed algae wafers. most of the time, and that will just break down slowly into the sand. That I tend to use sand, but whichever substrate you use, it will just slowly disintegrate and the shrimp will pick away at that if they're running out of biofilm in the tank. But to be fair, there's always plenty growing, especially if you've got a half decent light growing the plants well. You'll soon have algae growing in places which, like that rock for instance, there's plenty of algae covering that and the shrimp pick away at that. There's even a little bit of tufts of hair algae growing on the wood, which I quite like the look of. I mean, some people might say, oh no, hair algae. I mean, in my opinion, it adds a bit more of a natural look to it. So yeah, food wise, add a little bit of fish food, algae wafers, something like that, and they'll soon pick away at that, and they'll find that perfectly nutritious. You know, as long as there's a little bit of calcium in the food, or your water has calcium in it, then, or whatever sort of substrate, or if you've got some rocks in there that are actually releasing a little bit of calcium into the water, that'll benefit the shrimp as well. So yeah, you'll see things like that. Their molts, that's what they'll do every 30 days or so. They'll molt their outer shell, and that will come off, and they'll get rid of that, and that just, I'd leave that in the tank. I mean, you might think, oh, there's a dead shrimp there, which is certainly not. It's just their molt, and that's completely normal. Leave it in the tank. It's another calcium source that will slowly break down. They may even pick away at it, and that'll go back into their bodies when they pick away at it. So yeah, leave the molts in the tank. So yeah, hopefully you've learned a thing or two from this, and we'll go to me talking about finishing off, shall we? Right, let's have a look. I hope you got something out of this video. Maybe you learned a thing or two. Maybe I missed a thing or two. So if I did miss anything, you've got any other advice for beginners, you know, keeping cherry shrimp alive long term, having some good success with them, leave it in the comments below. That'll be much appreciated. But yeah, I wish you all the best of luck keeping cherry shrimp. I'm sure you'll have them for a long time, and you'll have hundreds of them before you know it. You want what to do with them. Maybe take some back to your local fish shop and get some store credit, or pass them on to friends and keep the hobby going. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.